Fires a long one. Nothing but net. Oh, my goodness. Didn't see that coming. I'm diddly dee.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of All Nat, brought to you by OTS. Today, I am joined by Nathan, who is a Sixers fan, and I'm so excited to talk to him today. One of the reasons I wanted to have Nathan on the show is because whenever he gives like his, assessment or anything about the Sixers, it's always so reasoned. And when you're on NBA Twitter, it's like one of the hardest things in the world to find fans in particular who are like that. And I like to think of myself as reasonable, but I know a lot of people think I can be like a little extreme or, whatever, but he always just has really balanced takes, I think, and we'll get into this a little bit, but I've even heard him talk about why it's probably time to move on from Ben Simmons. And normally you always hear people just being like, oh, it's like they're either really pro Ben and like they go hard for him, or they're really anti Ben and he's trash. And he just always comes with like very reasoned, balanced analysis. So I love that for my guests, and I love that for my show. So I wanted to have Nathan on. I'm sure you guys will enjoy my conversation with him. So Nathan, welcome to the show. Thank you for being on.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
No, see, even his tone of voice is so balanced. Okay, so I'm super up and down, and I'm passionate, and I get excited, and sometimes you gotta be like, nah, come on, dial it back. So I need someone to like, counter and offset that. So I appreciate you. So the Warriors are going to be playing the Sixers. I'll actually be attending that game. I'm going. So I'm super excited. I'm also excited because I know this is bad to root against my guy, and I'm really not rooting against him because I don't want to get killed by Warriors fans, but there's a slight chance Steph's 3-point record, or the record to pass Ray Allen, might come into play for that game, and I would like to see it in person. So I'm sort of hoping. We have one game before that. We play the Portland Trailblazers on Wednesday, and then we go to Philly on Saturday. And so he has to hit 16 threes to pass Ray Allen. Possible for Steph Curry. I think a little aggressive, but definitely possible. So I think there's a good chance that I get to see him break that record in person. And that's what I'm hoping for. But also, you always have the whole Steph versus Seth rivalry. That's like an underlying thing of the game. So you'll have that. So a lot of storylines. But they're going to be playing the Sixers, who I think now we're kind of back on their winning ways. You guys lost Embiid for a while. You had Tobias out for a while. You guys were dealing with some COVID protocol issues. Yep. You had like a great record at the time. You were like, I think at the top of the East, or one of the top teams.
We're like 8-2, and then it got real.
Yeah, and you guys lost a lot of games. And so how is it now, like with everything back? Like, because I saw some quotes from Embiid where he was kind of saying like, I have a far way to go, like to kind of get back, I guess, into form. So like, what are you seeing from him, and how are they looking?
I think it's Embiid, so there's always some lingering issues for sure. So sometimes he plays very timid, where you'll see him, instead of attacking the rim, he's just floaters and mid range. He likes to eat on that left lower block kind of thing, mid post, likes to eat from there, and sometimes he relies on that too much. So when he's playing like that, I can tell he's just timid, or he's trying to pick his spot. So he's all the spacing in the world now, and he's still taking, shots 8-12 feet from the rim. So, in the last two games, you can see he's actually attacking the rim. So that's kind of where I think he's feeling. He's getting his touch back. He's starting to hit those, shots, and he's getting to the rim. It's like the big thing there.
And what about Tobias?
Tobias is Tobias,
I mean, he was a borderline all-star last year, though.
He's right, but he doesn't make border all-star money, so it's like you expect more. It's one of those things where, like, I don't think he's an awful player. I know people do not like Tobias. I don't think he's an awful player at all. I think that sometimes he's forced to be something he's not. When I say that, I mean, Tobias isn't the guy you want taking 6-9 threes a game, but sometimes he's forced to be that guy, or and he becomes that guy, and he's not attacking the rim, and then there's always, everyone deferring to Embiid. So you'll see games where, everyone's trying to get Embiid going and everyone just kind of trying to find their spots. So I think overall, like this season is just no one really has any rhythm. So when you see like a guy like Tobias, he's not really like an assertive guy, and when he is assertive, he looks like Westbrook, in times, it's like where why'd he shoot that?
Right.
Does he see anybody else open around him? Like what is he doing? So it's like, he's not an awful defensive player. I can see he took steps there, but I feel like overall, he's not obviously a number one or a number two, maybe not even number three option, but
Really?
I don't even think he is sometimes, because he's just so inconsistent. He's very inconsistent. But I mean, in today's NBA, yeah, he could be a number three. But as far as like being a contender or, being one of those teams that are almost like a trade away from a contender, I don't think he's number three on one of those teams.
Do you
But
think
I don't
he
think
was
he's a bad
consistent
player.
last year, or he was still the same thing?
I think he had a really good stretch where there was a point where I was like, yo, this guy's an all-star. It's probably about January, maybe. He was really good. Like I was like, wow, he's right there. This might sound crazy. I haven't had friends push back against, but I was like, yo, he's right there with like Levine and things like that as far as like his production offensively.
Right.
And then but it's one of those things where he gets inconsistent, where he'll, go a few games without hitting a three, or he'll have a few, 2 for 11 games, like he'll have those. And it's like, why, and those games come whenever Embiid's out or what Ben was out a few times last year. So it's like, is he really like a number three option? Is he that guy, and then he'll have,
Is that really inconsistent though with like, I guess most NBA teams, even the ones that have won championships, like is your number three gonna like be I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I think Warriors fans are kind of doing a similar dance this year with Andrew Wiggins. Like we're starting to see like
So it's been good.
all-star,
He's been
yeah,
good, really good.
discussions for him. But I mean, I think there's some times where you're gonna see like some inefficient shooting. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably normal for a number three.
It
Maybe I'm
is.
wrong.
No, you're right. It's just when they get max money, it's a different thing,
Money,
especially,
that's what you guys focus on. Okay.
yeah, because it's one of those things where with Philly is different because they had the option to pay so many other people, obviously Jimmy Butler, however people felt about Jimmy, him leaving is a huge reason why Tobias is criticized the way he is, because they're like, wow, why didn't Jimmy get that money? I understand why Philly did it,
Why
there's
did they
obviously
do it?
honestly, I think it was more of a front office thing, I don't know for sure, but I kind of feel like it was one of those things where if you see in the playoffs, I think this is where it all kind of started, where they took the ball out of Ben's hands, and I totally understand, Ben Simmons feeling some type of way about that. Like, I mean, I played point guard all year, and then now you guys just lose faith in me, I could see that causes some type of conflict between the two, and obviously Jimmy's not the type of guy that hold his words. He probably understood where Ben's coming from too, but I can see how that can look like, what is the coaching doing? Our coaching is terrible, so I can see Jimmy probably sided with Ben in a way, and then this other time, okay, we want to win too. So he can look at like these guys in Philly are like stupid, So they probably had no choice, They're probably like, we're not going to give this guy Jimmy Butler all the money he wants because we don't even like him. You know what I mean? So they give it to a Tobias, and they do a crazy trade for Horford, like stuff like that. So a lot of that has to do with that, I think. I think Philly fans understand that. So they look at Tobias like, bro, we could have had someone else with this money. You know what I mean? So I totally agree with you when you say, like, I mean, third options aren't necessarily guys that can, finish, but they look at them like, yo, we could have had a Jimmy, which I'm not the hugest fan of Jimmy, but I feel like he's a better player than Tobias,
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I think everybody thinks Jimmy's better, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of the getting rid of the Jimmy, at least from the outside looking in and from what I saw, heard, it had to do with Ben, like conflict between Jimmy and Ben, not necessarily
Yeah.
like personal conflict, but
Personal,
conflict
right.
in their play styles on the court.
Right.
And so
Right.
Philly chose Ben. you know.
Which makes sense. It makes sense. He's, the younger guy. Obviously, I think Jimmy, obviously Ben, no one likes Ben now. I totally understand that. But I feel like Ben is a better player than Jimmy. Like I understand, like people look at it like this guy went 5 straight games that I was shot in the fourth quarter. That's ridiculous. Like I understand that type of stuff. But as far as like, even you look at Philly now, like how the defenses fell off a cliff, we're not generating nearly as many turnovers. We're just leaking points on defense. Like our defense is like top 3. Now we're like almost bottom 5, bottom 8,
So
and
I was
not
gonna
nearly
ask,
to
are
the
you missing Ben? And it sounds like you are, but it's more on the
100%. Yeah.
defensive end.
And pace on offensive end too. Like our offense looked like the most unathletic offense I've ever seen, like in pro basketball. Like we're literally just unathletic. We look unathletic. We just look slow. We play with no pace. And I was Ben. Like I hated this about Ben, where it felt like sometimes all he wants to do is get a rebound, run down the court, and kick the ball out. Like that aggravated me. But we missed that now. We're taking the ball up too slow. We're letting people get set off their defense. And we're beating people half court sometimes. But on the flip side of that, we need that pace. We're playing way too slow. So yes, Ben Simmons, what he did in the fourth quarter for those 5 games is, there's no defending that. But I feel now we're definitely missing that pace, as far as like the speed and then getting the turnovers and generating turnovers. And, rebounding too is another thing we're missing out on defense too. We're like getting up, giving a lot of offensive rebounds too.
So let's first take out like the differences between Ben and the org. Do you think Ben Simmons and Embiid should be playing together as like co-stars? Do you think they fit? Like if they could work out all of the differences, do you think they fit as a tandem to be a championship contender?
That's tough. I mean, obviously like the way life works, there's no like ideal perfect that just doesn't exist in reality. Like we could play 2K and edit attributes and stuff like that, but in reality it doesn't work that way. But as far as like competing with the contenders with Ben and Embiid on the same floor, absolutely I think it works. I've obviously been a strong Ben defender. I obviously feel different now, but I feel like it absolutely could work. As far as like it's 2 different playing style. So like Embiid's a guy that's going to slow the game down and he can beat you in the half court. Obviously Ben is going to push the pace. He's going to put pressure on the, at the point of attack, defending. Like you need that. It helps. It helps the guy that's protecting the rim, helps everybody else kind of can float around. Like a guy like Matisse can float around and just wreak havoc, play free safety when you got a guy like Ben on the, you know what I mean? You can do more, it gives you more versatility on defensive end. And then obviously it doesn't look pretty on offense, I feel like a lot of that's mentality, like it's like, there's no reason why like you just don't look at the rim for 5 straight fourth quarters, so
and that's
it's like,
what I was gonna ask. How do you fix what his fourth quarter problems are? Because like me, I'm actually not a fan of Ben, and people have been trying to get him to the Warriors, and I'm always like, yeah, fuck y'all, I don't want him on my team. And I'm like, this is not an issue to me of talent. He's talented. Right. So like when you said like he's the better player than Jimmy, I like I was gonna say like he's more talented than Jimmy, but like sure. I trust Jimmy to take shots in the fourth quarter and not be afraid to get fouled. And
right.
What is gonna correct that issue for Ben? People seem to just think it's a change of environment, and I'm like, no. I feel like what we saw last playoffs was maybe the worst it was, but I feel like there were signs and indications of this before. Like
100%.
People are treating it like it was an isolated incident. And like, to me, it's not. So I'm just like, why do I believe that this is going to change and get better? That's just on the court. And then there's just some diva tendencies I don't like about him from my
Which is fine. Yeah, which is fine. Off the court stuff is totally fine. Like people don't realize like, these guys are professionals, they don't have to be friends off the court. Even if they are, that doesn't mean they want to play together either,
Right.
And vice versa. They don't have to like each other and do really well. These guys they have their own families, their own friends. Like, when you finish playing basketball, you probably don't want to hear about basketball. You probably don't want to deal with anything with it. So the off the court stuff, I could totally see like they might not get along, which they might get along, who knows? But on the court, like you said, like the mentality stuff. It's almost like, I think with him, it's like people feel like he can get traded somewhere and be fine. But I just feel like he's going to go there and do the same stuff, because nothing, I don't know the guy personally. I don't know. So it's hard for me to speak on the mental side, obviously, because I respect people and, whatever they're dealing with, because that stuff is real. I 100% believe that stuff.
Likewise.
And I feel like with him, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like he's kind of embarrassed a little bit, I feel like he's a prideful guy. Um, he was a number one overall pick, baby LeBron, left-handed LeBron, clutch deal, like that stuff gets to your head, and then, Philly's fan base, people look at us like we're insane, but we love our players. We want to see them do well. We'll literally ride. Like I was the biggest Ben stan and ridiculous, like embarrassing myself trying to defend this guy and like, help, that's how Philly fans are. So
listen,
when you let down,
I be going hard for Steph. You see me on the
you feel me,
Yeah,
you feel me. So it's like when you underperform like that, and then you feel like no one has your back, I feel like the city turning your back. There's two ways to respond, and I feel like like I said, I never met Ben. I don't know him personally, but I feel like with him, it's one of those things where he's not one of those guys that can respond and be like, okay, like I messed up really bad. Let me redeem myself. He's the type of guy that's going to run away.
right.
Which, like I said, I don't know this for sure. This is just me speaking hypothetically.
That's how it looks from the outside looking in.
Right.
Right.
So I feel like he's like, all right, I just need to get away from this. Like I need to get away from basketball, all this stuff, So, and at some point he has to play basketball, like he can't just ruin his career by just saying like, I need mental issues. It's no one on the team wants me. Like, bro, if people knew like what Philly has done to like, make everything good for him, like he should not be saying that out loud. Like, yeah, people were a little upset. Yeah, there were people within the organization that wanted Harden for obvious reasons. This guy's an MVP. Don't take it personal, like that type of stuff happens, that's just the business
Warriors
of it.
considered Harden, and we're like, I always laugh when Warriors fans like, we don't want him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who do you think they were trading for Harden? It was going to be Klay Thompson, right? Like,
right.
So, and that's Klay Thompson,
right.
So
like,
it's, yeah.
There are people that you might like you and love Embiid within an organization, but don't look at it like everyone is completely turning your back on you. It's just people are disappointed. People believe in you. People invest a lot of time and money and energy into supporting his team, and they feel like you quit on them. And I feel like he doesn't want to like take accountability for that. Like I said, I feel like that. I don't know.
Right.
But like, I feel like he doesn't want to take accountability for that and like work on his game. I feel like it's one of those things where they don't build the right team around me. And you look at the team now, that team is 100% built around him right now. Like there's no real athleticism on the Sixers that can, do things for Embiid where Embiid doesn't have to run the offense. Like that team is completely built for Ben to have the ball the whole game and get his rebounds, run down on fast breaks and throw the ball out to the 3-point line. That's what the offense is built like, like look who's around, like I love Seth, but he's not, he does the best what he can do, like he does the best what he can do. Tyrese Maxey, like they do the best what they can do. Danny Green, they do the best what they can do. Georgie's name.
Part of the reason Embiid isn't always, or isn't maybe in the paint as much as he should, is because of Ben. Like it didn't. Yeah. I mean,
100%. And that's another thing too. Like everyone is literally like bending over backwards, playing different ways, learning to play a different way to accommodate you. And obvious reason, yeah, you got the max money. That's how it works in NBA. Like you get the best, the biggest contracts, get to the best players do what they want to do, and everyone else is fit in around them. That's how it works. When your best player just doesn't want to shoot for in the fourth quarter for 5 straight games, that's different. Now everyone's looking like, okay, there's actually a moment, which I don't mean to bring it back to that series, but there was a moment like in that Hawks series where I knew what was going to happen. I literally looked at my wife and told her like, yo, watch what he's going to throw to Steph Curry. Literally, it's, it's like 8 seconds left on the clock. Ben is looking at him walking down the court, and he immediately hot potato to Steph Curry, like figured out, hit the game winning shot. And it's like, bro, we're only down 2, like,
right.
Go make something happen. He's afraid he's going to get fouled. It just looks
right.
so bad. I was like, bro, like, it just looks awful. Like, why are you being paid this money? Like, You're paid this money um for you to take, the blame. You're paid because like this is your job at this point. Like responsibility is on you. You're the leader. You're a leader. Do you want this team or you want to be Embiid's team? Or are you jealous? Or what's really going on here? Like, I mean, I totally understand like the mental aspect. I understand it's tough. These guys are young. I 100% understand it. And I understand people are rude, mean, people are nasty, evil. I get it. But it was like, bro, um, everything was built around this guy, like everything. He had no complaints. Like if you look at his team, more he built, it was a phenomenal team he built around him. Like Ben didn't want to be off the ball. He didn't put anyone that can handle the ball.
Yeah, I see the people who, and I don't even always know that they are like proponents or supporters of Ben. There are definitely still those. But to the extent that people defend him, it's often the Sixers threw him under the bus. And that really doesn't move me, because I'm like,
I'm not trying to either. Nope.
Meaning, I'm like, listen, I'm really not trying to hear the both sides argument here. And I am not even a pro management person. Like, if I'm going to assign Philly any blame, it's maybe going to be like a
coddling
20%.
him.
Yeah. Like,
yeah,
and, right. And what you said for coddling him, because I said what I saw was an organization go out of their way to accommodate him. What I saw was
from
a
day
big
one
man, shooting and playing out at the perimeter.
He learned to play like a wing, and no one talks about this. Like Embiid had to play like Kevin Durant. Like he literally has to be Kevin Durant when Ben's on the court, which is okay because it's made Embiid an incredible player. Like that was your original question. Sorry, but like that was what he became. He became like, which he made a better player, but where you see he still has those tendencies where, like I said, he's having to break it, where he's relying on that mid post, taking 3 or 4 threes a game type thing, where it's like this guy is an animal down low. Like no one can guard this man. Like his footwork is incredible. Like he's obviously very powerful, but has at the same time has a really good touch. Around the rim. Like guys that powerful don't have that touch.
Right.
So it's like he can go get 30 a game. People like, oh, Embiid shoots a lot of free throws. Like, bro, this guy's like 7'2", 280. Like no one can guard him. Of course they're going to foul him. Like, what do you like? Do you think no one's just not touching this man? Like, why are you surprised he's shooting 8, 12 free throws a game? Like, you think people are just not touching him and he's flopping? No, people are hitting this man, like he's a big guy playing. They're hitting this man.
I never loved games where people were shooting a lot of free throws, but I mean, he's a big man. Giannis, like those kinds of guys, they're going to shoot a lot of free throws. That's always been, that's always been the way it's been. I don't feel like, I mean, look, all these guys do it, but I still don't think like Embiid is like as extreme as like a Harden was. Or something like that. So,
or Trae Young, Trae Young.
And even Trae has seemed to like adjust, to this year. But yeah, I mean, like just to bring it back to Ben, I just don't see how people are still defending Ben at this point. I really don't. And like just I was like, okay, if you're gonna really harp on what Doc said and what Embiid said, like you're ignoring all the other good things they said to support him. Why does all of that? So like all that goodwill they built up with him just gets thrown away because in a one moment of honesty, he didn't even slander the guy. He just said, I don't know. He said, I
really don't know. Yeah. Like
in the rawest moment after they just lost a series. And by the way, I'm someone who actually still doesn't even put all the blame on Ben. I put
it was not
of the blame.
No way.
But I'm like Embiid didn't close. He missed some free throws. He
was turning the ball over like
typically makes. Tobias was not great, right? Your 3 best guys. And so there's a pecking order to me of the blame, but I actually still think the Sixers should have won that series. And so
that should have been a 5-game tops. Like there's no way the Hawks should have won that. Like I love the Hawks fans. I love I know a lot of good people over there. I'm a huge Trae Young fan. I love his dad. His dad's a really cool guy. But they know deep down, like the Sixers are way more talented. That's why they acted the way they acted, where they're like, Hawks are going to win this champion. That was all over. That was literally them overcompensating. They knew that should have been a 5-game series because literally every game Sixers had it in hand, but then Doc Rivers, who I blame a lot on too,
Yes.
would do some crazy rotation where he'll just
Yeah.
put the whole bench. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? The whole bench is out there, and then you look up, and then the Sixers are up 15. Now they're down 4. You're
Right.
like, what? And then Embiid comes in trying to do too much, and then you got Embiid just not even looking at the rim. Like, yeah, we're down in the fourth quarter, elimination game, but I'm not even going to look at the rim. So
Right.
Embiid is like doing the best he can do. And
it's not a single thing. It's not a single
it's
thing,
not.
but I think you can assign blame in places. But the idea that like they threw him under the bus, and so
No.
therefore this like
Nah.
justifies or like I should understand this temper tantrum he is throwing. It doesn't
No
move
way.
me. And I'm actually very supportive of like what Maury's been doing and how he's been handling.
Yeah.
So that's where I come down on it. I am curious though, because I was in an extended debate today with actually one of the guests I brought on when we played the Sixers last time, John, and he has this belief that, and let me not say belief because it's not that like Embiid isn't a great player, but because it's not just him. I've noticed this from certain Sixers fans. They get very defensive about Jokic. And he only won the MVP because Embiid was out hurt. And
it's not true.
I don't think that's true either.
That's not true, man.
And also that because basically I was saying, I don't know what it was I responded to, but I said, come on. I said, Embiid is like a top 5 player. I know someone called Joel the best center in the league. And I was like, no, Jokic is the best center in the league. I was just like, he's a top 5 player. Like, and then it just became a whole discussion and like a laughing debate. And when did he become top 5? And I'm like, well, Kawhi's out. I don't think it's like, at worst, he's 6th,
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he's in the discussion, absolutely. And I think he's better than Embiid. These are like obviously personal opinions. And like, look, if I think Jokic, even if you say he's 6th best, right? Like if you put Giannis, Steph, KD, if you still put Bron, I think that was 4 guys I named. But if you put the usual 5 ahead of Joker, right? Then like, Embiid is somewhere what I would put him like, 7 through probably 7 through 9. Like people like 80 and Harden, who may have been ahead of him before. I'm not sure. I don't think that I would still put them ahead of him. 80 was not for me, but Harden is the one I would have still always had above Embiid. And I'm going to give him the rest of this year to like let it play out. But right now it's not looking good. So like, I mean, you're talking about maybe the difference between spot 6 and spot 7, if you're just talking about numbers, and this is Natalie's list. But if I look at it as like a tier thing, right? Like who's a tier 1 guy, who's a tier 2 guy. And I think I would put Joker now in tier 1, or he's like, if there's tier 1, like Joker's like tier 1A to me, he's like right there. That's how I view him personally. And I would just still think I would put Embiid in like tier 2. I'd put him in the next category. And I'm curious to get your thoughts as a Sixers fan on like the Joker versus Embiid debate.
The Joker versus Embiid, obviously I feel like Embiid's a better player. But as far as rankings, there's no argument you can really have for if someone says Jokic is better, because if you look at what Jokic is doing, like that guy is unstoppable. Once he stopped being like the flopping guy he was a few years ago, like no one can guard that man, like from all 3 levels, like no one can guard him. He runs the offense, he's the defensive liability stuff is way overhyped. Like he's not a bad defender to me, I mean, just from what I'm watching. I'm not like some super guy that sits there and,
right,
whatever, knows all the coverages and what the coach is telling him to do and how I don't know all that. But from what I'm looking at, he's not that big of a liability to me. So obviously I think people don't realize like how well, Joel played on offense last year, which that was historical stuff, how he played offensive, and his numbers wise, like I kept track for a while, and it looked like Jokic was Little bit beneath him offensively as far as like scoring wise. Obviously, Jokic has like the playmaking thing that kind of contributes to the global offense type thing, which is something
Right.
Embiid's improved on, but he's not running an offense yet.
Right.
So people would say, "Oh, well, Embiid's so a far
That's what I
superior
give Joker the
defense
edge for.
player."
Right.
Right. So he was like far superior defensive player, Joel. But as far as like, playmaking, Joel was taking some, steps forward. And as far as defensively, I feel like Jokic is taking a leap. I'm not saying he's defensive player of the year, but I feel like he's way better than what he used to be.
I
So if
agree.
someone says Jokic is better, like that's fine with me. Like I have so much respect for both of them as centers, big men, and this league now. And people don't realize like how important they are and how talented they are. So if someone says Jokic is better, that's fine, because he does do things better. It's just I feel like Joel's more talented, but Jokic has played better the last 2 years, in my opinion. So I don't feel he got MVP because Joel was injured. Like, no,
I know. I really hate that because it's like
it's not fair.
It's not, because Joker was always, he was having a good season the whole year.
Incredible year.
The Nuggets were struggling in the beginning, but they had some COVID issues and some things to deal with.
Yeah.
And so once they kind of got on track, then they were playing well. They moved up. They got to where they needed to be. And so I guess my point is that I think regardless, he would have become a part of the conversation. So like even if
Right.
Embiid, like everyone's basing it on the beginning of the season, and I think in the beginning of the
That's
season,
right.
Embiid
Right.
was
Yes.
an early candidate, and you weren't hearing Joker's name as much.
Jokic was he struggled a little bit in the first few weeks,
Right. But as they turned it on, I think that you ultimately would have heard his name in the conversation. And maybe it would have been closer. That's fair. But to say the only reason he won it is just because
that's not true.
I think that's unfair.
And that matters to me too, is, it was no disrespect to the Bucks, at all. But I do feel like, last year, the story of that season was attrition, like teams weren't healthy. You know what I mean? Like not taking anything from the Bucks or anyone, the Suns, anyone that made it all the way, but everyone was hurt, so for the guys that managed to stay healthy and persevere through injuries, I think they deserve credit. I don't feel like that's, a big deal. If you want to say, hey, well, these guys stayed healthy, the coaches managed the rotations, the players took care of their body, they had luck, they won, like that's it. So Jokic played like just about every game. I think he might have missed one, maybe. Right. If that, like he played like every game. He might have, took a break one game, but I think that means something. And he performed. He carried that team,
Yeah.
That man is their offense. Yeah.
One of the arguments for why people like a player like Ben, right?
Mm-hmm.
And consider him uber talented is because of his playmaking, right? I mean, obviously it's his defense too, but I'm someone who values playmaking and the ability to make others very highly, because I think that's always going to be more impactful. I think it's going to raise your team's ceiling. It's going to do more for you than if you're just individually a great scorer, or even if you're like an elite defensive player. So the player that is better at that, especially if they're like elite at it, which Joker is, then that's usually how I evaluate people, players. Like that's my preference. So you're always going to see me, usually it's just consistent with the way that like I, look at players. But I don't think that there's anything wrong for thinking other players are better and having your reasons. I just don't, like I understand some Sixers fans have a bias, but I think there's some other stuff going on with Joker and why people have a bias towards him. That's not just about, and so I don't like that, because it's just like, how long are we going to keep with the same arguments about his defense?
It's not that they're not watching the games, man.
No,
I hate to be that guy that's like, I
it's
test, but they're not paying attention, like if you look on paper and watch the game, you can see that the defense is not as nearly as bad as, people sell it to be. They make it seem like he's just like, Enes Kanter or something. Like he's not
at all.
He's not a bad defender. He's not a liability. He holds his own for the most part.
That's the important word. He's not a liability. Like someone sent me like a clip with like a guard like getting by him. I'm just like, okay, and like guards are gonna get by a big man. Like he shouldn't be out on the perimeter anyway. Like
I mean he's guarding a switch, and then sometimes people like find these clips in garbage time where the game is over and they're like, oh look, he cooked them. It's like, bro, there's like the Nuggets are up 18, and it's 3 minutes left. Like, like, what are you doing?
There was another
clip
I saw. It was like versus the Bulls, and I mean, it was still 4 minutes to go in the fourth, but the Bulls were up 15 and kind of had the game in hand. So like,
Right,
yeah, I'm
right.
sure he's trying his best in that moment to defend. Listen, I was just curious because, it was an interesting discussion to me. So they're going to play the Warriors, the Sixers.
Mhm.
And so, well, what do you expect for that with us coming into town? I mean, and
Man,
what are your thoughts on the Warriors season so far? I'd like to get that because you're just so like
man,
sometimes I
the
don't ask
worst.
people that, but like you're
Yeah.
very objective. So I'm curious to know what you're thinking.
It's fun watching them because I know how people feel, like even amongst Warriors, so that Steve Kerr isn't a genius, but the stuff he draws up and the way he has, like, I love Draymond. I'm a huge,
You're talking
I'm
to
pro
someone
Draymond.
who does not think Kerr's a genius. You might know that though. Okay, go
That's what
ahead.
I'm saying. Like, man, it's hard to explain, but from what he did for that defense is incredible. Like, obviously, you guys, put some, you got the continuity thing going where you got guys that played a few years together and they're, whatever. And Draymond is just a genius too, as well, and then you got Steph, who isn't bad at all. That's another thing too, is like he holds his own as well. So everyone just kind of comes together. You got Wiggins, who's I know I'm very critical of him. Not a huge Wiggins fan, but this year he's been decent, really good. They just defend the right way. They're on a string when you watch them play. Like, you're watching how everyone's, if they're switching, you're watching how they're communicating. You're not letting anyone slip screens. They're talking, and pick and roll, or who's dropping and who's, whatever, and tagging the roll. Like, they're doing rotating properly. It's like they're on a string, so they have a chance for everybody. Like, it's incredible watching. It's like, bro, like, they're suffocating. They don't even have to play super big and they're competing, and like, it's really fun to watch. Like, I know people look at Steph and like he's just throwing these, soul killing threes, and I get it, but the defense is what's impressed me a lot. Is like the way they defend. Like, they look totally different than last year.
Right. So that's interesting what you said. I'm curious because, there were a lot of Ben for Dre trades that have been
Mm-mm.
proposed. There are a lot of people who want to see Ben with Dre, but Ben in the dunker spot and all these different ideas that have been proposed.
Um,
One of the things I used to always say, let's go with the Ben for Dre rather than them playing together.
right.
Like, I used to actually think that like it would, of course the defense would still be good, but I actually
Mhm.
thought it would not be as good. And that's because the way that I look at Draymond as a defender, like I look at him as like a quarterback, like he quarterbacks the
100%.
defense
Yeah.
and he's out there like yelling out what people need to know. And actually Looney does it a little bit too. He's kind of underrated. Like he doesn't
Oh yeah,
necessarily
I like Looney a lot. Yeah,
get his,
I'm very
and
pro
look,
Looney. Yeah.
I'm one of the first people always cursing and screaming with his like 10,000 double pumps under the rim and how many, like all he has to do to gather. So I'm not going to sit up
Yeah.
here and act like I'm like Looney stan, but what I mean is
Looney for Looney.
on the defensive end of the court, he's one of the players who's out there like
Right,
being
right.
loud and calling out things. And so is like I look at Ben as like a great individual defender, like can he do what Draymond does, like in that way? Does he do that?
I don't think so at all. So this might sound crazy, but I don't. So if you look at like Miami Heat LeBron, right, where he start figuring out, I guess he understood like what everybody's gonna do, you know, like Draymond is that on steroids because he doesn't have athleticism, where he's literally just playing back and telling everyone what to do. Ben is not cerebral like that on the court yet. I don't feel like, Joel Embiid is still calling the coverages out, calling the screens and whatever. Joel is still that guy for the Sixers. I think Ben is more a perimeter guy. Draymond is actually in the back. So I love Draymond as a defender. He's like the team aspect he gets at. What I'm trying to say is like, Draymond's not the guy that's going to sit on a perimeter player and guard him all night. Right. And I don't want him to be that. Like, Ben is that guy. Draymond isn't that guy. So you insert him into the Warriors and it might sound good. Like, yeah, he's a 6'9", 6'11" guy, athletic and guards really well. But I mean, he's going to have to play quarterback back there. Does he understand enough to do that? He could, maybe. But On Draymond's level, I don't know, because with Draymond has a gift, everyone can't. People don't realize like how small NBA court is, and like these guys are huge. Things are moving fast. You know what I mean. So if you got a guy like Ben out there trying to process all that stuff and try to guard the wing player, he neutralizing his best attribute is like guarding the wing guy, so you want him sitting back there trying to do that when he could be on the wing. You don't want that. You want him on the point of attack, forcing the guy that has the ball to pick it up, pass it, or shoot it. You don't want him back there.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're good. That was all I was gonna say. You don't want him back there. He's more effective on the perimeter. Draymond is more effective, back there playing free safety,
Right. How have you viewed Andrew's point of attack defense this year?
He's not as lazy, I'll say that. And that's part of why like he's not nearly as lazy. So it's like because he's always had athleticism.
Now I am a Wiggins stan, so there's gonna be some limit to how I'm gonna let you talk about my guy.
I don't want any trouble. So it's like that's what I'm saying. Like the way Draymond and Steve got on to buy in and actually play, like he's actually like trying, he looks good to me. Like I don't know how it's gonna last, but he looks good right now, and the Warriors are rolling.
It's gonna
like he doesn't look bad. I think it's gonna last.
See how much Andrew is smiling? You ever see Andrew smile that much in Minnesota?
Not at all. And that's nothing too, because I was like, okay, we're gonna see what the Warriors about on that East Coast trip. When they played Brooklyn recently, I was like, okay, let's see if the Warriors are legit. And they actually won.
They destroyed Brooklyn.
Yeah, and
I was at Brooklyn that game.
Yeah,
woo! It was great. Yep.
That was great.
No, it was amazing. We took over Barclays. We took over the streets of Brooklyn. Let me tell you something.
And I'm like, they're legit. That's when I was like, the Warriors are legit. You can go way East Coast, different time zone, and play that way for like the entire road trip. I was like, okay, they're for real. And I seen Wiggins, locked in. I'm like, they're for real. Like they're not I'm not gonna lie. I thought they're a regular season team at first, and because like they started the year, they didn't leave California for a minute. They were in California just rolling through teams. I think they didn't lose a game. They might have lost one or something, but they rolled through everybody. And I was like, they haven't even left California yet. Like, let's see what they do when they go on a road trip. They went over there and did their thing.
So you were one of those doubters. I see. Okay.
I was, and I was like, man, they're for real, because I'm looking at it like, I mean, I don't think the West is as weak as I thought they would be this year, for one. Two, I was like, okay, I don't like Wiggins. I don't know if Draymond. I feel like Draymond retired from basketball when KD left. So I'm like, what are they going to be this year? He came out of shape. He was like, we're gonna limit, restrict them, and all this other stuff. I'm like, bro, how is this guy like out of? I'm thinking like they're gonna be bad, So when they play the way they played, I'm like, okay, it's just luck. So it's more of a mental thing for me. Like, oh, they're just. I'm finding reasons not to like them, trying to hate, But then after that East Coast trip, I'm like, okay, they're for real, So I'm like, well, like I said, like Draymond out of shape, I'm like Steph. I mean, whatever. He can't carry it all by himself. Like Jordan Poole, like whatever, like whatever, like it's like who are these guys,
I appreciate your honesty, though. I appreciate your honesty because you're saying like, look, I was just trying to look for reasons, and people want to like. It's a thing. Like people want to justify bad takes or like, why they're wrong instead of just saying like, look, I was wrong and I thought these things. It's very easy, I guess, to call a lot of us homers, right? Or things. I mean, you can't call me a homer because I'm actually not from the Bay Area, but I think it's very easy for people to chalk it up to say like they're Warriors fans, they're biased, that's all they see. But, when you and I were actually talking before we started recording, I said to you, like, I love talking to fans because like I get that we can get like really into our fandom. But fans know the teams in and out. They know and understand a lot of dynamics that not, let's say like, the local media or people who are covering the team are different, but like sometimes national media says things about teams and you're like, what? Like, do you even watch our games? Right. And so a lot of the things people were saying, thinking it was like Draymond's demise, including certain Warriors fans. I felt like that was just wishful thinking. It's just like, a lot of people were just like, I mean, look, the last time we saw him look good was in 2019. Well, yeah, because that's the last fucking time they went to the playoffs. And then the next year, Clay and Steph were injured. And then the following year, Clay was re-injured. So, like, I don't understand. Like, they missed because of injuries. Why do we think they just stopped knowing how to play basketball? And so, and even if you look at the 2019 series, like, if people want to say like Dre didn't look good in that series versus Pascal, because that's what I hear people say a lot with the Raptors, he looked good in every other series leading up to that, right? So that could have just been a matchup. But
playoff Draymond.
Yeah, so I never understood like the Dre stuff. His offense definitely declined. That wasn't that was real. But I think what I always thought about his offense was that because they got KD and he wasn't needed as much on offense, like he just didn't focus on his shooting anymore. He didn't, and whether he could get back to there, he's still not completely back to there, but what he is doing is being more aggressive. And when Dre is aggressive, that's good for us. And so I just thought like this idea of his demise, like, yeah, he's getting older, so you have to manage him, responsibly. But I just thought that was so like ridiculous and overblown. So there was that.
Yeah.
Any narrative about Steph to me is foolishness. So I won't even tackle those because I'm just like, y'all just wish for this man not to be great. Jordan Poole was a surprise for most of us as Warriors fans, certainly based on last year, what Jordan is doing this year doesn't surprise me. But we did not, like, not all of us. There were definitely some fans who saw it, some who didn't. But people who were still kind of being dismissive after last year, the Warriors to close the season last year, I think they won like 15 out of 20 games or something like that. And I recently learned that Ben Taylor had pointed out that during that time when Wiseman got hurt and they were playing with like that very, very limited roster, they were winning at a 60 win pace. So to me, they just continued what they were doing at the end of last season. So like, that's how I viewed them.
That's a good point.
I was just like, there were a lot of things going on with the Warriors, and I don't expect everyone to know that, but the team was soft tanking. There were a lot of things happening that, like, in the game Steph actually played, they actually, before he got hurt and his tailbone, they were winning at the percentage like of like a 48, 49 win team in a regular season, right? So their win percentage was still like a 4th or a 5th seed. So I'm just like, why are y'all acting like, I understand that they did not make the playoffs, but like, we need to actually look at the reality of what happened. And so the ownership really wanted to hold on to those picks. And so they were trying to toe the line and lose enough games. And so that's why they didn't fill roster spots. That's why they kept certain players out. That's why they did certain things. All the meanwhile, Steph still had them in the 8th spot. And so to me, I thought the rest of the league should be scared. But instead, people clowned us. They said we would be in another play-in spot. And I was offended by it. And like they
That's
felt
fair.
They felt disrespected because I'm like, these are 3 proven guys. And the way that I felt was, if this was LeBron, if it was Kevin Durant, in fact, Kevin Durant lost in the 2nd round, and all I heard was excuses made for why he lost and toe on the line and injuries. But like, when it's Steph, he never gets the benefit of the doubt. Luka gets ranked higher than him coming into the season.
Nuts. Yeah, that's nuts.
And so that's what I didn't understand. I said, there's no way. When Bron didn't make the playoffs that first year in LA, no one was talking about like, they were like, oh, Lakers are going to be the top team. No one talked about like we knew he had injuries and this happened and that happened, but all right, he got Anthony Davis. That's it. They're going to be the top. Steph, meanwhile, is getting Klay Thompson back. They closed the season on a high. He was a top 3 MVP candidate, scoring leader. And all I was told was like, oh, at 6th seed at best. I'm just like, where's the respect? So that's how many of us felt as Warriors fans. So I love the way the season is playing out. Obviously, I think there are other contending teams, but we're one of them. We're one of those top teams. And so I'm happy about that. I'm happy to prove the doubters wrong. So what are you expecting with this team that still has the best record? We were tied with the Suns for the best record in the NBA.
Mhm.
What do you expect for us coming into Philly and like how that matchup's gonna look?
Um, I honestly I love the Sixers, but I don't see the Sixers winning it honestly. But what I'm looking for is what I feel like. Obviously, I don't see the scoreboard reflecting a win. What I'm looking for in general is hopefully we have like Maxi back and Embiid. Because the thing with Maxi is him and Embiid haven't had a great game together.
Okay.
So it's kind of like I don't want to say that Maxi becomes a little less aggressive when Embiid's out there, or whatever it might be, and he just goes full, pedal to the metal whenever Embiid's off the floor, and then when he gets on, he kind of gets a little hesitant, reticent about a little bit, and so whenever Embiid's playing well, Maxi's not looking well.
Okay.
So I'm looking for to see them both have a good game. As far as obviously Maxi's not going to turn the ball over, like that's just something he doesn't do, which is incredible for
Right.
guy his age. Um,
But they
and
played pretty well in that last matchup
they,
without
yeah,
Embiid.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's
And
Maxi when did well
Seth likes to, you know, he
play
likes to
well.
step up when he's playing his brother.
Absolutely, and then that's another thing too is Seth. I just want to have him a good bounce back game because he didn't have a great game versus the Hornets.
Okay.
Was it last night? Yeah, last night. So I'm looking for that matchup. He always shows out. And then on flip side with the Warriors, I'm just enjoying. I just want to see Steph shoot 16 threes. Like that's what I want to see. So I was
Well,
like,
well,
I think that'd be cool to watch.
he's
That'd be
going to
cool
be
to watch.
aiming for the 16 threes in the Portland
Yeah.
game, which is before you guys.
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. But
Because he wants to break the Clay record, which is the 14 threes.
and then Ray Allen too, right? Ray Allen.
So Ray Allen is the all-time record, but then there's the most threes in a game, which Steph had, and then Clay broke and got 14. So Steph would need 15. He needs 15 to top Clay for most threes in a game, and he needs 16 to pass Ray Allen. So he will tie Ray Allen with 15. He passes him with 16.
Okay.
And we have the Portland game before
Philly.
So
okay.
Last
That
night
makes sense.
he did.
Makes sense.
Last night we played the Magic and he went for 7, but he was gunning. Like he
Yeah.
had times he could have just drove to the rim and he just kept backing out to shoot threes. He's right now I think averaging 5-6 threes a game, but like he has any given night where he can just like go off. So he's already they're already talking about the fact that like he's they're alluding to it without alluding to it, like he's gonna be gunning for it against Portland.
You think he's under 16 versus Portland?
Yeah, Dame won't be there, and I don't even know if CJ is playing. So
no, he had a collapse lung or something crazy or something insane.
But do you think Phillips is one of those coaches? Because those coaches sometimes when they know there's a record to be broken will just be petty and try to like take the ball out of his hand the whole night. So like box and one just be like, fuck it, you're not throwing that record on.
As a competitor, I think he is, and I'm not mad at it. Make him earn it.
So every coach is going to be probably trying to do this now for the next few games, like not let him get that record.
Yep. I didn't realize you guys played Portland line, but that makes sense now. Okay.
But I still think 16 threes is a tall task.
It is. And he's definitely capable of it because Portland is not good. They're not a good basketball team. Like, I have a lot of respect for their fans and their loyalty, and no disrespect to anyone that's a huge fan, but they're not a good basketball team.
So you just think the Warriors are going to win because we're the better team, or like, do you think like what's the chance you give the Sixers? Because
I think it's I would say 60-40.
Okay.
60-40. The Sixers definitely have the talent and are capable of doing it. It's just so much like what's the word? There's so much volatility with the Sixers. They look great or bad. So and then they'll look great and then they'll look bad, but then the bad game will be like Seth goes for 28 points, 30 points.
Right.
And then they look good, and it's like, okay, Embiid had a good game, Tobias had his little 22 points, and Danny Green hit some crazy threes where he looks like the guy that can make the point. And then you'll have, like I said, the games where everyone else is like below 40%, and then Seth will have 28. And
Danny Green, has he gotten any?
Yeah.
Because he's been pretty rough this season. Has it improved?
I feel like he's, sometimes I'm like, who's gave this man the green light? But I look around, there's no ball handlers, so I'm not too mad at him. He's still, an incredible 3-point shooter as far as like from the corner. That's where he earned his money from, and he's pretty consistent there. He's really good defender, like our Matisse. That's another lineup to look for.
I was gonna say Matisse, like, because I had
Matisse, Danny
Sixers
Green.
fans like Matisse can do something on stuff, and
Yeah,
how do you feel about that?
No, but he can't guard stuff. But Matisse, Danny Green, Joel Embiid are like our best defensive lineup I've seen. But the thing with that is like Matisse is a 0 in offense now, which is, it's like the with the Roberson thing, with the OKC Roberson thing,
Right.
back in the day. But
That's
I feel
great
like
comparison, actually.
It's that thing again, and it's kind of cool with him having, Danny Green as like a mentor, because Danny Green kind of learned to shoot a little bit better as career going, and I hope Matisse gets some of that. But as far as like Danny Green, he looks really good with that, with Matisse is on the floor and Embiid as far as defensively. I don't think he has that on ball ability as I would want him to, but he's okay.
So in a year with all this drama surrounding the Sixers, what is the bright spot for you so far to this point?
Stress-free basketball, it sounds crazy. I love Ben, but it's to the point now where I really don't care who gets him for what anymore. It's like, I just want him to find whatever he's looking for, and the bright spot is like not being stressed about like what Ben Simmons is going to be on the court that day. It's like, I'd rather deal with, Embiid, excuse me, going 0 for 7 in the fourth quarter, but trying, emptying the clip out, trying to win, then, watching the game and seeing a guy that obviously doesn't want to be there or just scared, so it's like, I feel like it's stress-free. I'm not defending my team every day. I'm not on Twitter like, oh, the Sixers are going to, like, I don't care. I just enjoy, I just enjoy who it is. I don't feel like we're a contender. So it's like stress-free basketball. The bright spot is Tyrese Maxey for sure.
If there was a trade that you can do, a realistic one, what would it be? Like, who is it that you would want that you think could? Because I think part of the issue is, right, like for Morey, or at least I'm thinking he views the championship window as now, right? Like, Embiid is there, and so he doesn't want to like make the team worse. And like in these trades, you rarely just get back like equal value. But who do you think you guys could get back in a trade that can actually happen that would keep you guys like in the conversation?
It all depends on when you want to see the trade, because if you see something, what's the date, like the 7th right now?
Yeah.
If you see something like, next week and a half or so, it'll be like a crazy trade where it's like multiple teams in a framework, and obviously there'll be some guy from the Pacers thrown in there. We'll end up with like a Karis LeVert or something weird, and some picks. You know what I mean?
You
like,
saw the news earlier today about them, right? That they're trying to rebuild. Okay.
Which isn't
so
a
is there
surprise,
anyone from the Pacers you want?
No.
Okay.
But obviously Brogdon was there. I'm not a huge Brogdon guy, but that's someone that we picked from there. I would take him over Karis or Sabonis, or obviously Miles Turner. Like, I'm not a Sabonis guy. I do not think he's a good basketball player. Like, I don't.
Okay.
I feel like he's not good to me. Miles Turner, he looks on paper like, okay, it's a stretch 5. It just sounds cool. That blocks a lot of shots, and it can, make 2 or 3 threes a game, or shoots 2 or 3 threes a game. But as far as like, if you look somewhere like December 15th around that time, like, it'll be a team like that will pick on some guys like that, But as far as like offseason, it's gonna sound really crazy, but that's where it gets really interesting, because there's guys like, this might sound crazy again, but like Harden, like, let's say things don't go well in Brooklyn. He's not happy. They don't give him the max, and he's like, I want out. Sign and trade Ben Simmons right there.
Would you still want Harden though? Like, if his production and his play stays the way it is, like that it's been, still an elite playmaker, still, but like scoring has definitely gone down and not as efficient. Do you still want that?
I do. I'm a Harden guy, obviously. Obviously,
Are
like I feel
you?
like I am obviously. Unfortunately,
I'm
I
not
guess right now.
obvious. No, tell me, please explain this to me.
Um, so I think he's a good. I like Harden. You know, he's very
Okay.
skilled. You know, obviously I get the flopping stuff. You know, and I think he's. How can I put it? I think he's a very talented, player. Obviously, this year it looks like he's like, okay, I got Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving on my team. I'm gonna set back. Now Kyrie Irving's not here, so he's like, man, I adjusted my game. I'm playing weird. I'm not looking good because I thought he's gonna be here, so he looks off, and he's not being the player he needs to be. So
But
I get how he looks
why
crazy.
would Kyrie being gone make that happen? Wouldn't he just like flip the switch and say, okay, I go back to old Harden?
I think Harden came in this season thinking he's going to average 14 assists, type guy and get his triple doubles and maybe crack 20 a few times a game. Like I think that's the guy he thought he was going to be. But when Kyrie's gone, he's being that guy somewhat when they need a guy that's going to go get 28, 30 consistently, with Kevin, because
But
the
he's
role
done
players,
that before. So why can't he just go back to doing it? It's not
he's
new
out.
for him.
Look at him, like he's out of shape, for what. Um, I don't know what it is. Like it's kind of like the Ben Simmons 3 thing, but like Harden just doesn't. He just looks at all that space in the mid range and just like I'm not going to shoot it. He's probably shot like I don't understand it. Like I'm looking at it and he does the most awkward stuff where he's like he'll see like he'll have the step on the guy to like pull up get him in gel and pull up. He doesn't do it. He'll do some awkward thing where he'll like flop and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? And then the ref doesn't even call it sometimes. He just looks stupid, turns the ball over, and then he's not even trying to get back on defense. So it's like, bro, what is going on here? So it's like just shoot the mid range, man. So he looks crazy right now. I mean, obviously his numbers aren't as bad as we think it is, but it looks okay on paper. But when you watch it, it's like, bro, he's worse than Russell Westbrook right now. Russell Westbrook is actually outplaying this man, and
I think the
so it looks
biggest thing
crazy.
is his scoring though.
He
I
has
just
to
feel
score.
like
He has to be a scorer.
he's still assisting, he's rebounding, but if he is not being close to
Scoring,
a 30-point scorer for Brooklyn, they
it's
have no
not going to
chance.
work.
Not if Kyrie doesn't come back. They have no chance.
No chance. Because he looked at it like, I'm going to be the one. Kyrie's going to be 2. Kevin's going to be, all kind of positions, like just carrying a team. And Kyrie's not there. So it looks crazy because it's like, bro, like, what were you doing all off season? I get you were injured, you're, nursing, but like Kevin Durant had the same injury he had with the hamstring thing, or whatever, like everyone has an injury. It's not saying injury is a joke, but it's like, we don't want to hear that excuse. It's like, bro, like these guys are you're pros, and
I certainly don't want to hear it when you told me it was going to be scary hours.
right. Everyone is like, as a basketball fan, like I'm a Sixers fan, I'm a basketball fan first. So I love watching the best people play and be elite, even if they're smashing the Sixers. Like I love that. I just like good basketball. So when you watch them and you're like, bro, did you even care about this year? Like, what are you doing? We were excited to see what Harden and Kevin Durant will look like on the floor, and you're out here looking like you didn't care. Like you thought you were just going to just coast to a championship and then play yourself into shape, and the Nets are going to be in the title. Like that isn't how this works. Like these young teams are hungry. And that's the thing about the Warriors. Like they're hungry. They're defending. Like they smell blood and they know they can beat everybody, and they
They
play
haven't
like
been there in
that.
2 years, so they're definitely
Yeah,
hungry. But you
and they
said
know they can
something
beat everybody.
interesting. So so if the whole max doesn't work out, the extension doesn't work out
Mhm.
with Harden or new contract. Well, is it an extension? Is it a new contract? What is he up for?
Contract, basically. I guess you
New
could say
contract.
extends his new, but yeah.
Okay. So if he doesn't end up doing that, because like maybe they don't get to the finals, they don't win, they don't make it
Mhm.
back, it's a disappointing season. So that starts some grumblings over there, and he maybe is
Right.
looking elsewhere because Philly was one of the places, right? Although I kind of feel like the Nets is really where he was always trying to get to. But
Mhm.
someone like a Harden could, who before maybe didn't seem like was an option, could become an option. And that's like a player
Right.
you want them to go after.
Like I said earlier, like I don't really care who they get, but it'd be great to have Harden. I feel like the way Sixers
What about
play,
Kyrie? Would you take Kyrie?
if he's available, if he wants to, I mean, like if he if he gets the vaccine, if they find like what they call it, the plant-based vaccine, like
But he doesn't need to have the vaccine in Philly, does he?
I think Maury's not going to take him if he's not available, as far
Okay.
as like vaccinated. But no jokes, obviously Kyrie's, entitled to, what goes in his body and stuff like that. So no disrespect to Kyrie for sure.
Yeah,
But
that's fine.
yeah,
If you felt the other way, it'd be fine too. I
yeah, I
share your
love
view.
Kyrie.
I'm the
I'm a
same
huge
way.
Kyrie fan. Yeah, I'm a huge Kyrie fan, but I mean, it's like whatever, man. But um, if we had healthy Kyrie, like that'd be insane. But I don't see the Nets pairing Kyrie with Embiid. That would be just suicide. Like that they would. I mean, I know that would strike fear in everyone. Putting Kyrie on the same floor as Joel Embiid, that'd be insane. Like Joel Embiid has never had a guy that can run the pick and roll at point guard. He has to learn to play like a wing because he's never even learned. He doesn't even have to roll to the rim. He's never learned to even roll to
I'm
the
just
rim
curious
because
why that isn't a trade that's even been tried. I mean,
with the Kyrie and Ben,
yeah.
I think it's just because Kyrie wasn't available, like, and then who knows what Kyrie wants to do? He gets traded, he decides he wants to retire. Like, what can people do?
Everyone keeps
It's
talking
just
about this
like,
man's retirement. I'm like, why are we retiring Kyrie? He has never told us he wants to retire.
you just never
Um,
know. It's just that unpredictability, and it's
I hear you.
no, and if you got a guy locked in for 4 years, I think Ben got like 4 or 5 years, 4 years,
Yeah.
something like that. You can't just trade him away for a guy that might retire because he doesn't get his way. Like, you
Anyone
know,
else besides Harden who you think could be a potential target?
I think this is gonna sound crazy. I think the SGA, Shea Gilgis,
Oh, I love
he's
him.
a guy. I think is possible, but I don't see. Um, I don't know. I don't know if OKC will want a Ben Simmons. I don't know why they will do that because Ben Simmons is the guy. Kind of like no disrespect to like Lonzo Ball. Like they need smart players around him, good players around him. You need guys that can play the right way. So if you put Ben Simmons somewhere like OKC, like he will definitely be depressed, because like rebuilding, like Ben Simmons' brand is built on like he's won since he came in the league. He's been a 50-win guy since he's been in the league. So it's
He
like
has
he
been
goes somewhere,
so coddled, and I just, oh God, this
you
guy
know what I mean? He
annoys
goes
me.
somewhere and they're winning 22 games. Like, come on, bro. Like he's gonna look terrible. And he's 22, they're win 22 games and he's getting, 14, 8-8 a game. Like he's gonna look nuts. Oh, and 3 steals, he's gonna look nuts. So I don't see him being okay with being traded somewhere like that, which it doesn't really matter. But the thing is like with Ben, he created leverage. It's weird the way he's acting right now. He created some kind of weird leverage. So I know the CBA is going to be insane, whatever that's going to be. So let's say he gets traded for SGA, right? And he decides he doesn't want to play. What are OKC going to do? Like, wow. So I feel like some teams might be shying away from Ben if they don't think he wants to play there.
I absolutely agree. I think he's hurting himself more. People think like the Sixers are
He's
hurting him.
100% hurting.
I think he's
No,
hurting
no.
himself.
He's 100% hurting himself because at some point he has to play basketball and the expectations are going to be tremendous, because it's like, bro, you sat here and held out for a whole year. And you came back the same guy, like he put pressure on himself where he has to be LeBron or people are going to kill him the rest of his career.
We're totally
Because
aligned on how we view the
yeah,
Ben Simmons situation. All right, one last thing I want to ask before we wrap up. Because we were talking earlier, and I meant to follow up with you, but you were talking about like I guess like last year's playoffs and like the battle of attrition and like the teams that got there. So I kind of wanted to like just dig into that a little bit because I kind of feel like that too, and people feel like I shouldn't do that as a Warriors fan because that's often what people did to us, right? When we won the first championship. And I'm like, the Warriors were a 67 and 73 win team. I don't want to hear shit about, like
yeah,
we only won because of injuries. Like if you look back at NBA history, teams that win 67 and 73, how many teams even get to that, right? Like the best team wins in the NBA, generally speaking. Like
right. That's why it's a 7-game series, right?
right,
Right.
with a few exceptions, right? So like I don't want to relitigate the whole history, but like I understand that like the 2015 series would have looked different if Kyrie and Love play. And I also feel like the outcome wouldn't have been different because I thought we were the better team. And I thought that the second year, and that's my opinion, but things happen. So whatever. With the Bucks. So I gave that background to say, so anytime that I say the same thing, like, look, respect to the Bucks, they did what they had to do. Same thing with the Suns, but there were a lot of injuries last year,
Right. Yeah.
and people are like, you're doing the same thing that people did to the Warriors. And I'm just like, the Warriors were historically great teams. Like, and I mean, the Suns were a very good team. The Bucks have had better years than they did last year,
Yeah.
but I don't think any of those teams were like that. And I was just like, but they went through a Nets team who were missing some pretty key guys, or
Right.
and one who was, I don't know. It's hard because Harden is still playing like crap. So was it him being compromised? I don't know. But and then then they played Atlanta.
Yeah.
Let me, because Atlanta fans are gonna be in my mentions going crazy saying I'm disrespecting them and Trey. And I actually was impressed with Atlanta and what they did and
Yeah.
Trey's
Atlanta's they're a
performance.
good
So
basketball
I'm
team.
not
They'll
like, I actually
yeah.
think they're pretty versatile and sort of deep. So I don't
And
like
Trey Young is an incredible player. He's probably a top 10 player, So
yeah, I
great
think
player.
after this year, it's probably fair to consider Trey a top 10 guy. He's definitely, well, I have him basically probably taking Dame's spot in terms of like point guard rankings.
At this
And
point, yeah.
and I had Dame as like a fringe top 10, like maybe 11, like right there on the outside, somewhere around there at the bottom. So I
Mhm.
think that's fair to say about Trey. But I still think like, okay, you played this banged up Nets team. You played the Hawks. You dominated the Suns, who are another nice team. But I
The
think
Suns they had one center. Like that
right,
that was it. They had 8 in, and then who else was there? Like, I mean, of course they go
right.
crazy.
So like I do think there's a bit of like, look, Giannis dominated. He was great. He had like an all-time play, like finals performance. And at the same time, we can also be honest about like what the competition was and what it took to get there. And so this year, I'm praying for everyone to stay healthy.
Right.
It's always a battle of attrition, but I want to see the best go at the best and see who comes out the victor. And I feel very
Right.
confident in my Warriors, but I still know that there are other great teams. I know that Kyrie can come back any minute. The Lakers can probably turn it around. I'm not a big believer in them, but the Lakers may turn it around. What are your kind of thoughts overall on like all the different kind of contenders or people out there?
As far as like attrition wise, or just
Just
who I
the
think are
teams,
like
like, yeah, who's like more likely to like make it?
um
I mean, do you think the Bucks are going to repeat or get back there? The Nets, is it like another team in the West? Who do you think maybe right now is not popping up as like the team in the West or anywhere really, but maybe they're going to emerge later, that kind of a
a
thing?
surprise team? That's tough.
Because I mean,
Um
do you think the two best teams in the West are the Warriors and the Suns?
mm, Probably, yeah, I would say that. And then there's probably like, the Jazz are right there.
You
Jazz
think
is I think they're a team that can like I said, stay healthier and sneak it out the West.
really?
Um, I hate the Jazz. I hate Rudy Gobert. Like I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. It's not personal. It's just I don't like the way he plays. Like I don't know. Like I don't like his fans. I don't know what it is, but
No one likes Rudy. But like, what about the Lakers? Are you like,
I don't know. I love AD. I mean, I love LeBron, obviously. I just don't with them. It's just like they got to stop like this turnover in their roster. Like I get AD isn't playing excellent. He's playing good, not excellent, but he keeps playing with different guys. It's kind of like what the Sixers dealt with a few years for a few years where they kept having new entire starting lineups around Ben and Embiid. It's kind of the same thing with LeBron and AD. They keep playing with different people, and
right?
then at some point,
No
there's other
continuity.
team. Right, there's some teams around you that are building that continuity, like the Jazz and the Warriors, and it's no surprise those are the top teams: Jazz, Warriors, and Suns. And
Suns.
there's no surprise. They're not making these huge roster flips every year, you know, and
I
that
feel
kind of
like with
make
the
them look.
Lakers, at some point, it's like, what point am I actually allowed to say, like, I don't know about the Lakers? Because all I keep hearing is like,
Now,
there's still time. It's still
no,
early. It's still this. And I'm just like, are they just
no,
going to
man.
turn it on in the playoffs? Is that what you guys are expecting? I just don't know.
I think they're a playoff team, but they're not a contender to me at this point. Like they play like a play-in team, but I'm just giving them like they got LeBron, he's gonna get healthy. I'm giving them that to say they're a playoff team. So no disrespect to Laker fans. I have a lot of good friends over there and they're cool people. But like my eyes is saying like out of respect for LeBron, I'm saying they're a playoff team, but I don't see them as a contender just from just looking at how Vogel's coaching him, you know, which he makes stuff so difficult. Like I watch this time, I'm like, why are they like putting 80 in ISO? Like, bro, he's been trash all year. Like, why is he still like I don't even watch that many Lakers games. I might watch like one a week or so, but like
his shooting also hasn't been.
I'm like, what do they keep doing? Just, you know, create, you know, pick and roll, you know, catch and shoot, you know, do stuff like that for him. Don't make him have to dribble or nothing. Just make him catch and shoot or roll to the rim. Like that's where he's been eating at. Make him do the putbacks, like stuff like that, dump offs. But like they're making them play a different way because they have no spacing and it's weird. And like, what are they doing? I hate the spacing work because everyone just uses it for everything. Like it's such an overrated thing, but it's like
It's a true thing though. Their
yeah,
spacing is
like
ugly.
it's like they're playing the worst possible way. Like they literally play like they're trying to like make it difficult. Like they're trying to play for style points or something. I'm like, why are they forcing the ball like this to AD to play this way? He's obviously not that guy at this point.
You think
You know,
Vogel survives the season?
no, I don't. I don't think it's all his fault either, but I don't. I can 100% see why they would do it. So I'm like 85% that he finishes maybe, but like this offseason, they're probably gonna let him go. They're gonna need some kind of scapegoat, you know, because they're not gonna trade Russ. They can't trade that, so he can't be scapegoated. They can't obviously scapegoat LeBron, you know, obviously. They can't scapegoat AD. So next person up is Vogel, you know. They're not getting rid of Pelinka, you know, like that's just not going to happen. So someone's going to,
Right.
you know, relax. It should be Vogel, I think, even though it's not all his fault. It's just the
The way it is.
personnel.
And what about the East? Who do you have like as the top teams over there possibly coming out?
It's crazy to say, you know, but I feel like the East isn't as great as I thought they would be this year, for one.
Really? I feel like the East is so much deeper.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like they'd be way better, you know. Obviously, like I know everyone loves the Bulls, but the Bulls, you know, they have like
Why are you doubting the Bulls? Why are people still doubting the Bulls? I don't understand this.
It's just like they just have like six guys, like, you know, like six guys, and then they just don't seem like full enough to compete to me, you know.
I mean,
Like
I hear you, but I mean, playoff rotations only go 8 deep anyway.
that's true. That's true.
And maybe
you know,
there's
and,
someone they could pick up like before the trade deadline.
buyout market. That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
they lost some players, unfortunately, so that's why they're thinner. But I mean, they're legit. Like, why? You know, I just feel
they're
like
legit. They're not a contender, but they're legit.
Like they're not a real team. I don't understand.
It's just like when I watch them play, it's just like they kind of like I remember. Okay, this is when I realized they weren't legit when the Sixers beat them with no Embiid. I was just like, I don't know.
But that's a game. That doesn't mean they're not legit.
And I'm watching and I'm seeing what the Sixers are doing, and it's like
anyone can lose a game.
Anyone can lose it, but it's how they lost it. I'm like, bro. Drummond should not be eating like this, you know, like this is not okay. You know, Drummond's a horrible offensive player. I love him as a rebounder and he's been a good rim protector, but it's just, I love DeRozan, love Levine. I've always been pro Levine. I love Lonzo Ball. Everyone knows I'm a huge fan of his game. I like a lot about him, but I just, like you said, they need one more piece. They need like, you know, maybe one or two guys to flesh out the rotation, you know, because again, it's a attrition thing, you know. It's like one of those guys get hurt, which knock on wood, I hate injuries. I never wish that on any player, no matter if I like
Same.
them, love them. Like I hate injuries as a basketball fan, but it's just a reality if we're talking attrition. Like they don't have the bodies to deal with attrition.
So who you got? Bucks, Heat,
Not the
Nets?
Heat, probably the Nets or maybe the Bucks again.
Okay.
I know people are kind of like losing faith in the Bucks, but I still think they got better in off season. I really love the Grayson Allen thing was like brilliant. Like I was like,
I
okay,
hate him. He makes like every fucking
yeah, I hate
shot.
him, bro. I was
I
like,
never see him miss a shot. Does he ever miss
It's
a
like-
shot?
not from the corner, and I'm just like, this guy is. It was a good pickup, and
It was.
it's tough. The East is like I kind of felt like obviously I thought the Sixers would play in team this year before the season. Like I have no expectations. They're a play-in team, but probably the Nets or the Bucks. I feel like the role players have been playing so bad for the Nets that they're going to get hot at the right time. Obviously Kevin's going to be Kevin, just like he's going to get his, 28 points on 10 shots. Like, you know what I mean? He's going to be that guy forever. Like, it's cool.
Insane this year, levels of shooting.
Yeah, he's insane. Like, what he's doing in mid-range is insane. Like, I think I said something earlier where he's like shooting in the mid-range. His shots in mid-range are more effective than three-pointers now. It's like that hasn't
Wow.
ever happened. Like, that's never happened in history. Like, as far as I've known. So it's like what he's doing in that. I mean, that's just so much more space to cover.
Because like people aren't really even defending the mid-range anymore
At all.
So it's a smart, I guess, strategy is what I'm saying. Like, if I'm so good at shooting them and they're gonna go in at this clip and they're not gonna really defend me, then fuck,
Right.
like, I'm gonna keep shooting them. It's pretty smart.
And it's like it just I don't know. It obviously you can't win the whole game by himself, but I feel like again, like I feel like those role players are going to get hot at the right point. And then this is another thing too.
Are they? Which role players are we talking about? Because Joe Harris is going to have to come back now from that injury, which seemed like it's pretty significant. So
yeah, it is.
So it's going to take him some time to get back into rhythm, I think.
I think this is another thing too. I feel like the guys on the Rockets, like Eric Gordon, and then there's another guy on there. They're not. Oh, and he's played for the Magic, the guard. Gosh, what's his name? He's played for Texas.
Which team?
The Rockets. Those guys are not going to finish the season. Where they're at in the Rockets.
You mean there might be some Wood?
Not Wood. The guard. Gosh, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank.
Wood. I don't remember all their players. I want Wood, so I don't know about anyone else on that roster.
Wood. People have been saying the words of looking into him, but there's a guy. What's his name? Gosh, it's gonna kill me. But there's gonna be guys that start get picked off of these, bottom feeding teams. They're gonna end up on like the Nets, and I feel like Joe
roster. Go ahead, keep going.
I feel like Joe Harris is going to get traded too. Like I just don't.
Do you to fill out the team?
Yeah, I think he's going to get traded. I just feel like he's not a playoff player, and he has a few solid games, but he's not. What he's making like $18 million a year. Yeah, it's DJ Augustin. DJ Augustin. I feel like guys like that. DJ Augustin, that's the guy name.
Okay, yeah, he is.
Guys like that are going to end up on, some team on the East contending, maybe not in the West more so, and they're going to help, rotations. They might end up in, Brooklyn or Chicago or, wherever, and they might help. You might find guys like that. But as far as the East, is probably the Nets or the Bucks, honestly. Trying to think if anyone else. I still just
think like if Harden doesn't start playing better and Kyrie doesn't come back, I just don't see the Nets
winning, which is fair. Because
it's either or. Like if it's both, then I think like they are probably the team in the East. But I feel like Harden has to be MVP Harden.
Yeah.
And if Kyrie is not coming back, he has to be that guy. So if he doesn't or Kyrie doesn't, they're probably the second best team to me in the East. But I think, it's the Eastern Conference Finals and that's their ceiling, barring injuries or some other thing. And, I think there's a good chance the Bucks could come out the East. I think they're good. Everyone's talking about how they have their swagger now because they won. They're back healthy, right? For the season, they had some issues, so it looks like they're winning again. So we'll just see about the Bucks.
Yeah, because I just don't see anyone else on East. Like, I just don't see anyone else. Like the Heat, maybe, but Duncan Robinson just fell off a cliff. Kyle Lowry just, I don't know. He's old.
Been really inconsistent.
Yeah, just fell off a cliff. Like, it's just bad.
He has been inconsistent. That's what I actually noticed because they had like that hot start. And then I was looking at, I was watching, like, Kyle has been like, he'll have like a really great game and then a not so great game. So they need him to be consistent. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I thought the Heat could be one of those teams, and I think they can still, they have a great coach. I love Spo. That's a coach.
Spo, I like Spo.
And so they could turn it around. So I definitely would not count them out. But yeah, we'll see. All right, this has been great. It's been a really, really fun conversation. Everyone, I hope that you enjoyed Nathan as much as I did, because as you can see, he's super smart and has, a lot of great insight around the league to offer, not just on the Sixers. So we look forward to playing you guys on Saturday. I hope it goes down so you get a good game. With Steph just trying to kill us with threes. I hope it goes down because I will be in the building and I want to get.
So let's say Steph gets 8 tomorrow.
Yeah,
and he'll get his 8 versus Philly. Is it home Philly? Right, Philly's.
Yes, but I need it. Listen, if he does not get to 16, it has to happen in Philly, because then the next fucking game is Indiana, and I don't want no damn records being broken in Indiana. Ew. Because the game after that is MSG, which I will be at as well. And it would be epic in MSG. But that would mean he would have to do something like 5 or 6 threes. But if he's like in the 8 range,
that'd be cool.
If he's in the 5 or 6 range, it's like probably not going to be Philly either. But if it's like in the 8 range, we could get to Philly. So Philly or MSG, just like sit him for Indiana. I don't even, because that's a back-to-back anyway. So sit him, give him his rest, and let him go ham in MSG.
All right. And Philly fans will love it. Watch, Philly fans or basketball fans first, so they will love it.
Yeah, you don't think Doc will be trying to stop it?
He will 100% try to stop it just out of spitefulness, but I'm pretty sure the fans in Philly will love to see Steph, break the record.
I've gone to games in Philly before. It's actually a really great building to be in, and
cool.
I went to college there, so it's my stomping ground. So I'm very familiar with Philly, nice. And looking forward to it. All right, Nathan, thank you so much for being on. Listen, guys, make sure you are subscribed. If you're watching on YouTube, follow on Apple Pods, Spotify, wherever you like to stream podcasts. It is available on Nat. That support is so important to me. If you download, it also helps me a lot as a content creator. So I really appreciate you. And if you're really feeling in a good mood, leave a review. I appreciate those. Give me a 5-star rating only. All of those things. If you don't want to give me 5 stars, then you know what they say. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. But until next time, thank you for tuning in. Take care.